Hi. In this video, I will show you how to do Azure infrastructure as a code with using Terraform and CI/CD with GitLab. So here in this video, I will show you like how to create a repository in the GitLab and how to write the Terraform code into the GitLab repositories in a branches with using the VS Code here as a developer. And then we also see how does this CI/CD pipeline that is written in the GitLab is actually spins up the required infrastructure in the Azure. So where the we will define the infrastructure in the Terraform, and we also see that the GitLab CI pipeline that we define in the YAML file, how does it actually performs those tasks and spins up the required infrastructure into the Azure. So here, this is purely an hands-on experiencing demo session. So here I'm going to walk you through from scratch to end, and finally we see the GitLab pipeline running and spinning the infrastructure into the Azure with using infrastructure as a code, that is with Terraform. First, let's see the my GitLab account. So this is my GitLab account or subscription. Within that, I have a lot of personal projects as you see here. So for this demo, I have created a project called Azure IAC, and in this project, I have already set up the required Terraform file and GitLab-ci.yaml file, which is basically pipeline, which deploys the infrastructure as a code into the Azure. Our infrastructure as a code is defined in the Terraform. So here I'm using the Terraform for infrastructure as a code, right? So this is basically just an overview, and then I have a very simple one right now, only one branch, but in your case, you can create a multiple branches. So with that said, this is what the primary configuration that I have maintained on the GitLab. Now, so now just to get started with the Azure infrastructure as a code, we need to have a certain prerequisite. So here we are actually doing a deployment into the Azure with using the Terraform. So we need to have some mechanism to authenticate into the Azure and then spin up the infrastructure into the Azure, right? So for this sake, we need one authentication mechanism. So here I'm using SPN as an authentication mechanism. So this is my Azure subscription where I'm going to show you the infrastructure deployment. Basically, infrastructure creation will happen in this my Azure subscription. So let me show you how did I create an SPN and what is that I'm using from the SPN and using into the GitLab CI/CD pipeline. So here I have an SPN or app registration. So this is my SPN, and um, I have created the secret for this particular SPN, right? And when I go to the certificate and secret, so these are all my secrets I have created for the demo. So what is the information that you need to get from this particular SPN and use it on the GitLab CI/CD pipeline? Okay, so here you need to collect few information, and those are all like one is the get the application ID of the SPN, that is nothing but client ID generally called as. Get the tenant ID, as I said, get the client ID of the SPN, right? And this SPN should have access on the subscription where you are provisioning the resources or infrastructure. So in my case, this is my subscription. On this subscription, I had given full access to that SPN. Now, right, so from here, you need to also collect one information that is basically subscription ID, right? And then, so with that information being collected, keep those information somewhere, something like this. So basically, we will create an environmental variables on the GitLab pipeline, and the environmental variables keys are something like this. One is on client ID, which is basically service principal app ID in green, and then on client secret, which is service principal password or secret, then the arm underscore subscription ID, which is subscription ID, and the tenant ID. So basically, you create the variable key like this, and the respective value should be collected first. Okay, and with that information's been done, now let me take you back to the GitLab, and this is the first prerequisite configuration that you're gonna do it one time, and that is purely manual. So to do that, you have to go to the settings and then go to the CI/CD. So basically on your repository, that is the Azure IAC in my case, you went to the settings, then you clicked on CD, And then here, if you drop down, there is an option called variables. In the variables, you need to create the variable something like this. So for example, as I showed you, we need to create a key exactly like this. There is no there is no other options except exactly you have to keep the capital letter underscore something exactly like this, right? And arm client id is equal to your spn client id. The arm client secret is equal to spn secret. Arm subscription id is nothing but the subscription id where you want to set the context or deploy the infrastructure. And the arm tenant id is nothing but your azure tenant id. So all these are being hidden and masked because they're all secure credentials. So that's the reason I have kept it. Now, just to show you how to create a variable, there is a button here called add variable. And here type should be variable, environment variable is equal to all default. And here in the visibility, you choose the masked and hidden. And then you can provide the description here. Give your keys, basically, these are all the keys. Something like this, that is ARM client ID, and provide the value. Click on add variables. So those variables, 4 variables will be set like this. Once these variables are set, then that's all you have to do manually on the GitLab repository. And that is one time. Now, with that said, now we go to the developer steps now. So to developer steps in the sense, we need to clone this particular repository in the VSCode, which is IDE, Integrated Development Environment. So go to the code and clone with the HTTPS. So you need to copy that URL, and you can clone the repository from the VS Code by going into the source code or source control. And here in the three options here, go to the, so basically you can clone it from here by go to the clone and provide the URL and hit enter. So you're gonna store those repository, that is Azure IX, in somewhere, and that's where the cloning of the repository will be done in the VS Code. Now we are here in the VS Code now. From here, I'm gonna walk you through the code, and then we see the demo here. So this is very important point. You need to understand how the code is been set up, how the GitLab CI/CD is working, and how does it actually the GitLab CI/CD defines, and then how does it actually works basically. That is very very important. I'm sure that you might be knowing about the Terraform, the standard definition of Terraform files and all, but knowing the GitLab CI is very very important part of this demo. So let's see how did I do that. Now, as I explained that we have set the environmental variables that is required to authenticate with the with the Azure, right? Now we're gonna use that environmental variable in the GitLab CI YAML pipeline. Okay, so first of all, let me quickly walk you through the what is that I'm defining in the Terraform as infrastructure as a code. So I have dedicatedly created a folder called Terraform so that I segregate the infrastructure as a code source code, and the other source code can be segregated. This is very important. Okay, sometimes people directly create a main.tf file underneath the root file, which is okay, but sometimes it is not okay when you have the infrastructure as a code and the source code sitting on the same repository, right? So in that case, it makes sense to bifurcate the source code based on the folder names. So here um, I'm creating a folder called Terraform so that I keep all my Terraform file here, or I even the modules of the Terraform files can also be kept in this folder itself. So this one main.tf file, it is nothing magic here. So here I am defining a certain Azure ARM resources, and that is what being defined in this particular main.tf file. So you see that it is creating a resource group on the fly. It's creating a virtual network with using the /16 ranges. It's creating a subnet called internal. It's creating a NIC here, right? And then we are creating a virtual machine using that particular NIC. So this is bare minimum, the demo, which is actually spins up a virtual machine in the Azure resource group on the fly. Now I'm going to go to the next file, that is provider. So the provider is as the namespace. So this is the file where you're going to define the provider plus backend informations. The Terraform works with a set of configuration called Terraform backend. So Terraform backend is nothing but, it is the configuration information where you're going to annote a certain information like where is the backend state file, and what is the state file name, something like that. So in this case, so our provider is Azure RM, and that's the reason I have defined a block called provider and Azure RM. In the future, we have given very blank because we are keeping the into the different definitions. So Terraform is the block where you define the backend. So within the Terraform block, we have one more block called backend of the Azure RM. And within that, we have the variables, basically parameters, that is resource group name, storage account name, container name and key name. So basically these three variables, and their values is actually collectively called as a the backend information. So basically the remote state backend is nothing but stored in a Azure storage account in a container in a particular key called gitlab.tf, tf state file. I'm going to show you this file after the demo. So with that, that is the provider.tf file. We have the variables. So this is variable definitions of this code, right? And in the tf-var file, so since this is very compact code, so that's the reason I'm giving the value of those variables in the tf-var file itself. So that is all about the Terraform code. Let's go to the main very important point, so which I would like to explain in a very detail. So this is the GitLab CI YAML file. So basically, like you might have seen in the Azure DevOps, or you might seen in the GitHub Actions, something similar in the GitLab CI. So where you define the pipelines in the form of an YAML file, and that YAML file has its own syntax that you have to follow. So there is nothing magic here. So GitLab defines a certain syntax that you have to carry out when you define the GitLab CI/CD pipeline definition. That is what exactly we are doing. So within that one is basically it talks about a workflow. So we use a keyword called workflow and forward slash. Basically, this is the colon, and within this one workflow, basically this property of this particular YAML file called workflow is defined like how this workflow has to be invoked. In a very simple term. So it says that there is a rule. So based on this rule, this pipeline has to be invoked. The rule says whenever somebody is committing into the main branch, or when somebody merges into the main branch, that's where this pipeline can be triggered. That is what it means. And or else somebody can manually invoke this pipeline. That's what when always is talks about. Then we have a stages. So as the name says, pipeline we generally will have a stages. Like stages, it could be dev and dev, UAT and prod. So in this case, the stages means it's in terms of the Terraform commands. So generally, Terraform, spinning up the infrastructure with using the Terraform pipeline has three stages generally, like validate, plan, and apply. So in this YAML file, we have defined those three stages as you see here. That is validate, plan, and apply. So it does not mean pure the environmental, that is dev, UAT, and prod, but in the context of Terraform, validate, plan, and apply. So then we go for the next one, that is default. So default is nothing but whenever this pipeline gets invoked, I know these are all the something default configurations will be used to initiate that particular pipelines. Okay, so first one is every pipeline uses the certain the Docker images, and in the backend it will spin up the pods, and from where within that pod you are actually running the pipeline. You are actually running the pipeline steps basically, right? And that is where this image is talking about. So it will use this particular image, creates a pod in the backend, right? And it will set up the entry point, something like this, and after that it will initiate a certain the prerequisite script that is called as a before script. Within the before script, we are running the bash command, but generally, which is nothing but cd equal to then cd. We are doing a change directory to Terraform, because you see that my root folder is Terraform. So we're gonna go to the cd to that path, and then you're gonna go do the Terraform init. Remember that wherever your files, that is Terraform files, is sitting, you have to be there in that particular directory. Then only the Terraform commands will work, or else Terraform command will not work. So that's the reason this is what we are doing it here. And then this is where the initiation happens. So remember that here is the magic happens. We have set the environmental variables called client ID, secret ID, subscription ID, tenant ID into the CI/CD variables, and that's where this pipeline will automatically read those environmental variable, gets the connectivity to the Azure with using those information, right? And then that's where it will establish the backend information that is defined in the provider. So basically, with using that authentication, with using this information, it will do the initiation of the Terraform, that is Terraform init, right? And then the Terraform init will be cached, in the sense whenever you do a Terraform init, it will generate the .terraform folder, because in that folder it's gonna keep all those modules and all. So that's where this .terraform module will be stored, and then rest all is very generic or very simple. So we have declared the rest all tasks as the stages here. So a little bit different, in the sense the GitLab works a little bit different. So you can call it as a stages here. So here we are declaring the Terraform validate, which is a stage, right? And then the script is nothing but the command that it has to run. Script is nothing but the command that it has to run in that particular stage. That is Terraform validate. Similarly, in the Terraform plan, so here we are actually executing the script, that is that is Terraform plan with a certain parameters, that is Terraform plan variable file, right? So variable file equal to tf-var file, that is we have declared here. And then the output of this particular command is tf plan. That's where it's going to store the plan of the Terraform. The artifact will be stored in this particular path, that is nothing but Terraform folder underneath that tf plan, right? And we are naming that artifact uniquely by using this particular conventions. Then goes the Terraform apply. So in the Terraform apply is nothing but it's same like plan, but here we are running a command that is Terraform apply. So the stage is apply the dependency. So you see that here I'm using the dependency because until my plan is success, I don't want to run the Terraform apply. So that's the reason Terraform apply will be running here. So the script is nothing but Terraform apply, auto approval, and the TF plan. So TF plan will be generated by the above stage, that is plan, and then only this will be running because of the dependencies. And that's where it gets connected or synced. Right here, we are actually adding a clause called when, in the sense somebody has to manually approve it, then only this stage will be running. Allow failure equal to false, in the sense whenever there is a failure happens, it will fail the pipeline completely. And basically it will reference only on the main of basically main branch. So that is exactly at a layman term, this is how this is how basically the CI/CD will be defined for the GitLab. Okay. Now with that said, what I do is I'm going to make some nonsense changes or immaterial changes, I would say. So what is that? I'm just commenting saying like say here demo, right? And then I'm going to run this pipeline in front of you so that you understand that this pipeline works. No need to worry. I'm going to share this codes, basically the repository link in the video's description. You can find it from there and try to use it and learn from your side. So I'm going to commit these changes, which is immaterial changes, and say like demo commit, right? And then once the demo commit message has been typed, I'm going to do a sync the changes. So when I click on a sync the changes, the changes that I made from this particular Visual Studio Code gets merged into the upstream branch. Now, when did we do this particular sync, which means that you are actually committing into the branch equal to main, and that should trigger this particular pipeline. Let's see if it has triggered the pipeline by going back to the GitLab. So here is the GitLab subscription. We are into the repository that is Azure IAC. Now within that repository, let me go to the build and go to the pipeline. So you see that in the left hand pane underneath the project, you have a lot of options running. So you see that there are a lot of options here. So within that, we are looking underneath the the blade called build. In the build, we have gone to the pipeline. Now the pipeline that is latest running pipeline is this one, and you see that so there are a lot of messages. So this is nothing but commit related, that is code commit related. The hash something mark is nothing but your pipeline ID. So click on that pipeline, so you're going to get a proper visibility of what is happening in that pipeline. Now you see that our Terraform validate has gone green, which means that it has successfully done the job. So in this one, you see that it has done a lot of job. If you see, you can go granular and granularly visible, in the sense you can check these details granularly, understand in a more detail. So right now I can just show you that it has went green. Now let's go to the another task, that is basically what happened to the plan and apply. So looks like validate is succeeded, then it has went to the plan as well. Now once you click on a plan, so you're gonna get the more information. So you see that, so basically I have already run this pipeline. That's the reason it is just validating the changes, and then it is giving me the summary. So it says that there is only one thing to change, which is basically default changes, right? And it has produced the artifact called tf plan, and tf plan is already published underneath the, you see that, Terraform folder. Okay, so with that said, let's go to the final task. So if you remember in the GitLab, the GitLab pipeline definition, so it was a manual action. So in the sense somebody manually invoke it. Okay, so that's the reason I'm just click on run it, right? And what does that mean to it is basically, hey, start running, something like that. Now once I click on run, only the last stage, that is Terraform apply, is running now. Now let me show you that how does the apply is running. So basically apply will do that one single change and it should go green, right? So while it is running, let me go back to the my Azure subscription. So this is my Azure subscription where I'm doing the CI/CD pipeline, right? So the the resource group that it has to create is this one, which is already created. Now we are running the Terraform apply again on that this one top up. So we expect the Terraform apply to go green, right? So currently it will take some time. You see that the job is succeeded. You can always go into more detail. So here it has run the two commands in the task, that is cd to this particular path, that is Terraform, and do a Terraform init basically, and then it is basically running the Terraform apply. This is the command, right? And then it is basically running the Terraform apply, and apply complete, and the summary says zero resource added, one changed, and zero destroyed, which means that the pipeline got green, which means everything is as expected. Okay, so with that said, see, here is the our pipeline of the demo, so which went as expected, right? So, and in the destination, that is nothing but our Azure subscription, where we see that my infrastructure is now managed infrastructure as a code with using Terraform, and I did a CI/CD with using the GitLab pipeline. All right, so with that note, I have shown you the things need to be shown in this video. A kind request, please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. With that note, thank you, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.